This is Germany, and this is Germany at the start of the 1300s, or at least this is the land that would become Germany. It is around 1350, and the whole of Europe is just beginning to recover from the devastation of the Black Death. It is predicted that between 30 and 60% of the people in the Germanic states were victims of the plague. Furthermore, the Jewish people were widely blamed for the plague, and many of them emigrated as a result to Polish lands. This gave the German people a new start, sort of. You see, this area was still under the control of the Holy Roman Empire, based in the Vatican. The vast majority of the population was a slave to the feudal system, and there was almost no unity between any large number of people, so Germany had a long way to go before uniting. At the beginning of the 15th century, Maximilian I makes the first attempt to unify Germany. He tries to create an imperial supreme court and general assembly. However, the people were too disunified for this to have any success. Following this, the Italian Renaissance has begun to influence Germany and started a movement known as the Northern Renaissance. This consisted of many different ideas that focused on education and social reform. Many artists emerged out of this, but the most notable thing that came out of Germany in this time period was the printing press, invented by Johannes Gutenberg, which would continue to aid in the spread of ideas for a long time after this. The 16th century is a time of religious growth for Germany, sparked by the teachings of Martin Luther, and known as the Reformation. In 1517, Martin Luther studied the Bible and posted his 95 Theses, where he complained about the current state of the Catholic Church and its abuses of power in the form of selling indulgences, simony, absenteeism, and more. In 1521, Luther makes an appearance at the Diet of Worms, where he gains more support for his teachings. The Catholic Church reacts with the Edict of Worms, which failed in its attempt to prevent people from supporting Luther. This indirectly causes people to question other forms of power and leads to many unsuccessful peasant revolts that left over 100,000 dead. About 20 years later, a new movement known as the Counter-Reformation begins, where groups like the Jesuits, led by Loyola, try to reassert Catholic doctrine. All of these movements end with the Peace of Augsburg, which allows the individual princes of all the small Germanic states to decide the state religion, which reduces the conflict for some time. In 1618, more conflict is begun in a war that is later called the 30 Years' War. This war takes place between many foreign powers, although most of the fighting occurs on German soil. It starts with Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand II defeating the Protestant nobles in Bohemia that want religious freedom. Denmark tries to help, but with little success. Then, Swedish Gustavus Adolphus is funded by France and successfully defeats Ferdinand II. The original Edict of Restitution that gave all church lands to Catholics was revoked as a result. The war ends with France fighting Spain in Germany. The Peace of Westphalia was passed, and Switzerland and the Netherlands became a country. The Holy Roman Empire lost power, and some small territories were distributed to existing countries. At the same time, scientific breakthroughs are occurring, like Copernicus's heliocentric theory and Kepler's laws of planetary motion. Both of these scientists are credited with influencing many of Newton's theories. In northeast Germany and Poland, Frederick William the Great Elector unites the kingdoms of Brandenburg, Prussia, and the Rhineland to create an absolutist power known as the Empire of Prussia. Then, Frederick William I consolidates power here and creates a military society that becomes a global power. Later in the century, the German people are worried about the emerging Republic of France during the French Revolution and are inspired in part by its ideals. The German Confederation is created to partially unite the rest of Germany. It consisted of 39 small states. This was influenced by the French Revolution. Germany had fallen far behind other countries in terms of industrialization, so they made some attempt but ultimately had little relative economic success, although it did modernize the society in a social aspect. In 1866, the Northern German Federation was created, which was just another step into the unification of Germany. In 1870, Prussia defeated France and cements itself as a global power. In 1871, Otto von Bismarck took over the German Empire to create the German Reich, and Germany was finally recognized as a united country. Bismarck had a strong control of domestic affairs. and truly operated Germany as a united nation. In 1888, Kaiser Wilhelm II took control of Germany. In 1914, Austrian Archduke Franz Ferdinand is assassinated in Serbia to begin one of the largest global conflicts known as World War I. Germany was allied with Austria and Italy in what was called the Triple Alliance. Italy eventually left the alliance, however. I'm not going to go much into the fighting, but the war consisted of static fighting and poor conditions, which eventually ended with the defeat of Germany by the Triple Entente. The war ended with the Treaty of Versailles, which blamed Germany entirely for the war and gave them severe economic crisis and hyperinflation. At the same time, the Weimar Republic was implemented, but the people didn't like it and blamed it in part for the economic failure of the nation. This let room for a radical fascist party led by Adolf Hitler to take power and attempt to restore Germany to its former glory. Although Hitler had very radical ideas, the people supported him because they needed drastic change, and Hitler offered them an economically successful nation. Opposite to World War I, World War II was very mobile, and Germany, using its blitzkrieg or lightning warfare, were able to quickly take Poland, Denmark, France, and they allied with Italy and Austria-Hungary. They eventually were stopped by the Allies in Britain, and following D-Day, Germany was pressed back into their own country, and Hitler killed himself, ending the war in 1945. During this war, Germany committed many atrocities on minorities like the Jewish people in what would be called the Holocaust. Germany used camps to work and kill Jewish people, and after the war, many Nazi soldiers stood trial in the Nuremberg trials to receive punishment for the atrocities that occurred. The Allies create the Potsdam Agreement, which splits Germany into 4 states to prevent them from rising as a national power again. These states were politically influenced by the countries around them, which caused East Germany to be more socialist and West Germany to be more democratic. This disunification, however, caused many conflicts that manifested mostly in Berlin, and eventually led to the reunification of modern-day Germany in 1989 with the fall of the Berlin Wall. This event marked the transition into what Germany is today.